Hey, Chelsea.
Hold on a minute. Okay, it's on. Well, welcome everybody. It is another day with Lunch with a Doc, and excited to be here with those of you that are here live and those of you who are going to see us on the replay. So as I get started, if you would just put in the chat, whether you're here live, go ahead, tell us what you like most about fall. And if you're on replay, hashtag replay and do the same. So glad you're here and hope we're going to share a lot of value with you. I am Cindy Trow and I am a certified health coach. And what I help people do is get healthy from the inside out so they can live their best life. And we do that with a mind-body approach. And I am here with Dr. Brian Sanders. And Dr. Sanders is an awesome doctor here in Smyrna, Georgia. And he is a board certified family practitioner. And he has a direct, help me out here, primary care practice. And what that means is that he's able to give you lots of attention and the time that you need and so many other benefits that doctors in a big practice cannot offer you. And so it's a magnificent model and he's an amazing doctor. So I'm glad to partner with him today and bring you Fall into Health. And the reason why I really wanted to come on and do Fall into Health is we kind of get a little lazy in summer and, you know, we're on vacation. So I wanted to kind of bring us out of that vacation mode and into the fall mode. And, you know, the more healthy habits and the more healthy things we do for ourselves, for our children, for our entire family, it really sets us up for the rest of the year where there's a lot of holidays, there's lots of excitement. So if we could kind of get ourselves in that structure and that framework, we're off to a good start. So with that being said, I'm going to let Dr. Sanders get started and share some of his wisdom and knowledge with you around these topics. Dr. Sanders, what you got for us
Perfect.
today?
Well, thanks, Cindy. And I know you're going to chime in as well as we kind of move along. But anyone that has any thoughts, questions, please interrupt or put something in the chat. More than happy to try to get questions addressed or thoughts. All input is welcome. Fall for me, a lot of times in the office involves a lot of child visits. So I take care of birth into old age, and so a lot of kids are needing to get back into school, and maybe have their annual wellness exam set up or have a sports physical set up, and so that's commonly what I see a big push for in the fall. And I don't think a lot of pediatric concerns get addressed nearly as much as adult concerns. They probably aren't able to speak up for themselves quite as much as we are. And so with that being said, I'd like to focus a little bit more on pediatrics, and the reality is I think a lot of this feeds into adult health and what that looks like for folks as they get older. So one of the most common things I see, and I think this is also a common thing Cindy sees in adults, is childhood obesity. And so I want to focus a bit on that and then talk a bit about sports physicals and kind of the value add there. So starting with the pediatric obesity, it turns out a third of children in the United States are either overweight or obese, and becomes more common as children get older. So as they get into their teen years, it seems to be a more and more prevalent issue. Turns out kids that are overweight at kindergarten are 4 times as likely to be obese by 8th grade as compared to those that are not overweight. And so I think there's not enough emphasis put on healthy habits in the pediatric age group, and I think a lot of parents don't recognize how important that is as their children are developing healthy routines and healthy habits. in terms of preparing them for a healthy adult life. Obesity in children can lead to the same sorts of health issues that adults have, and we're seeing it more and more and more these days. High blood pressure, high cholesterol, even heart disease in teenagers, diabetes, not type 1, but type 2 diabetes. The overweight, the type of diabetes where you're just taking in way too many calories, way too much sugar, not enough exercise. Even sleep apnea, we're seeing more and more in kids. And the reality is it's difficult. I think it's hard for all of us. But if we can make this more of a focus, more of an area of fixation on the routine visits and making it a priority, I think there's a lot that we can address that doesn't involve having to start medications, doesn't involve having to really get into an intensive kind of Western medicine treatments. It all comes back to balancing energy. And so if you have excessive energy intake with insufficient energy expenditure, well, then you're probably going to gain weight. And that's really more or less the basics of it. A lot of how we try to approach weight when it comes to pediatrics has to do with, developing a behavioral change model. Again, medications and all these different treatments really are not the optimal treatment approach, especially in pediatric groups. So a lot of it is trying to modify behaviors. The first step, like anything, is identifying where the problems are. So monitoring, food logs, activity logs, any other behaviors that are noted that, may be contributing to either that excessive energy intake or insufficient energy expenditure is step one. So something as simple as consumption of sugar sweetened beverages, which I know Cindy talks a lot about and really makes it a priority. The reality is fruit juices, sodas, I mean, they're all too common in households, and kids, just like adults, are going to develop a sweet tooth for them and, be attracted to them. So there's got to be some understanding of what's acceptable, what's going to be healthy to have in the house and what's not. Once you kind of have a sense of activity, food logs, now it comes back to controlling some of these stimuli. So reducing environmental cues and various different things in the natural environment that are leading to unhealthy behaviors. One of the big ones that I see all the time, and really try to make sure that that it's a priority of any pediatric visit, is screens. So televisions. A lot of kids have TVs in their own rooms these days. We're just building this concept again of insufficient energy expenditure. Sitting in front of the TV is too easy for hours and hours, and next thing you know, you haven't gotten any of your physical activity in. Plus, I think for a lot of parents, it gives them an opportunity to get some of their things done. But the reality is, you're setting your child up for unhealthy habits that they're going to develop that'll lead to chronic health conditions. Electronic games, we're seeing more and more. That's a big issue. A lot of kind of addictive behaviors surrounding gaming. And that's what these game producers want, but the reality is, as a parent, you've really got to figure out how to rein some of these things in. And then on the other side of that, what we could make more accessible, which Cindy knows all too well, are fruits and vegetables. And too many households kind of tend to have the more foods that are accessible that aren't going to go bad and went through a in-depth production process and aren't natural from the ground. And the reality is, those are again kind of developing unhealthy habits for our kids. So once you kind of have a sense of what the target behaviors are that we're looking for, how to control some of these stimuli, now it's focused on goal setting. So goal setting is more surrounding, what can we put in place and maybe reward some of these positive behaviors, so that we can achieve the healthier options, becoming a part of the day-to-day routine. Sleep, we found, is a big one. So making sure that sleep schedules are really as ideal as possible, making sure that it really is a logical schedule and a routine for kids is highly important. And we're seeing more and more that shortened sleep duration leads to obesity in kids. We need to have at least 60 minutes per day of moderate to vigorous physical activity. So that goes for any child. I mean, what defines moderate or vigorous physical activity, I think, differs depending on age groups, but 60 minutes a day is a minimum, and really something that needs to be prioritized again to get that energy expenditure out. And then beyond that, um, getting that physical activity in really is associated with reduced risk of disease in adulthood, and it develops those healthy habits that really feed into, once your child's starting to make their own decisions. And then positive reinforcement, I think is going to go a long way with all of these things. So, getting down to what are the target behaviors, how can you control some of these stimuli so that they're healthier options, setting goals, and then reinforcing the positive behaviors. I mean, I think a lot of this goes back to any sort of behavioral change, but the reality is it's going to be all the same with children, and it needs to start when they're young. Usually it's more collaborative. So I think, a lot of parents come in and they're like, well, my child's making the wrong decisions. The reality is it's got to be a parent child sort of interaction. It's got to be a parent child decision making and focus to work on healthier habits. You can't just pin it all on the kid and say, well, they're making the wrong decisions. Some of those decisions they're making have to do with what you're putting in front of them as the parent. So making sure when a family comes in, you're talking just as much to the parent as you are to the child is really key. Um, so, I think those are kind of the main ideas in terms of pediatric uh, obesity and kids being overweight and how we want to approach it. The reality is it's difficult and it requires frequent routine visits. One of the best ways that we can kind of help identify some of these problem behaviors is in this pre-participation sports physical. So, most schools require sports physicals as a annual thing to participate in sports in school. And I know a lot of parents are like, oh man, we gotta find time to get into the doctor and deal with all this. Well, this is where a lot of these, more basic behaviors are typically identified and can build a plan for follow-up and make sure that things are followed longitudinally. Really the focus of the sports physicals are to maximize safe participation for kids in sports. But we tend to identify a lot of medical problems that really are not going to significantly affect safe participation, but may affect their health long term if they're not addressed up front. It's very, very rare that I would ever exclude a child from playing sports, but it's very, very common that I identify something that then we say, okay, well, why don't we get together in 6 weeks or 8 weeks and really address this head on so that, we can make sure your kid remains healthy. Ideally, these sports physicals take place 4 to 6 weeks before the season starts, gives us time to evaluate and treat any medical problems that actually could pose a problem for sports participation. And then again, they're typically annual. One of the main things that we focus on is cardiovascular health. If there are cardiovascular concerns within the family or in the child, that may be something that we would require more investigation and potentially, working up further before recommending vigorous activity. But outside of that, the vast majority of it is just kind of a basic check-in on overall health. So good. I don't know if there are questions folks have, or if we want to hand it over to Cindy and kind of take us into, other fall models of health.
Well, that was absolutely fabulous. Of course, just really good stuff. And I think for me, just listening, I mean, I don't have young children, but I would be right there with you with the little ones. Like, yes, you are you are affecting them at that young an age. And that's my always hope. My hope is, how can I get to somebody? I don't want to work with pediatrics, but the younger, the better. And
Hmm.
so it's just really important. And some of the comments that are in here is modeling. Parents, we all need to model for our kids, what that behavior is. And I think another thing that I would offer in that is making it fun. Making it fun, like, making a game or a family challenge, about, if you have a healthy snack, you get some points, and you get to earn something. And the earning something doesn't have to be, go to the store and go buy something for your child. It can be, go to their favorite movie, or they get to choose the movie this week, or they get to choose whatever. But if we could gamify it in not a screen way, but in a fun family way that everybody's participating, I think that helps. Some of the points I was going to make is, those healthy snacks, instead of grabbing for something unhealthy, having it out and in front of you, having a basket of apples and oranges, just say, or having kids help you make fruit kebabs, have them involved in the process. And I think, Donna, I think you've done this with your child, to actually take your child to the grocery store and teach them to look at labels and say, what healthy snack would you like? What's your vegetable that you want? To really involve them from the grocery store forward, and doing things like that. I know there's a couple of comments in here, and I can't read them as fast. So if anybody wants to jump in, we'd love you to participate. So Chris, I know you probably have some words of wisdom you want to share.
Yeah, Donna and I are kind of agreeing with each other that, it's not really modifying as it is modeling. Because no matter what you tell them, don't smoke, don't smoke. If you're smoking in front of them, that's not saying the right message. So do as I say, not as I do. It doesn't work anymore.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And as far as exercise, on the adult level, one of the things that, I talk a lot about is, some of us are really good about going to the gym for an hour, or going for a run, or going for a hike, or whatever. And and you probably do that for like about an hour a day, if 30 to 60 minutes, and there's those 23 other hours of the day. So one of the things I really like to emphasize is just movement in the tapestry of your day. So as I'm standing here, I could be sitting down, but standing is better than sitting, right? And our kids, we always want them in a chair. They've been in a chair all day long at school. They don't need to sit down and do their homework. They could stand up and do their homework, and take kind of movement breaks. Movement, let them work for 20 minutes, take a 2-minute movement break. I think that's just so important, even before the day starts. And I know for some of our young kids, they're getting on the school bus at 7 o'clock. And so to say to a parent, like, have your child, go run in the backyard for 5 minutes. But at the very least, if you could walk to a bus stop, walk them to the bus stop, walk them back from the bus stop, take family walks after dinner. So the more that we can model and include them in there, I think, everybody wins. And I've seen that with my clients. When you get a mama healthy, you get the family healthy, but truly in involving them in that as well. So a couple of things. This is also a season, that, we're looking forward to the holidays. It's a little stressful getting back into the routine of things. And there's 2 times a day that I really like to talk about. And that is the twilight hour before going to sleep, and then the model morning. So I think we're pretty good. I remember years back, my son's 21 years old, but how did we prepare our children to go to bed, right? What did you do? You read them a bedtime story, you gave them a glass of milk, you sat and relaxed with them, you turned the lights down. And, back then there weren't all these screens, so I didn't have to worry about all of that. But it was really a quiet time so that you could get into the mood for sleep. so you could have a good night's sleep. And so I really promote that, at night, doing that with your child, maybe sitting out and reading a book, having a cup of tea, talking about gratitude. What a beautiful thing to do before you go to bed, right? What a beautiful thing to do when you wake up. So kind of creating a routine would be a quiet routine is good. And also waking up in the morning, turning on your happy button, turning on your physical energy as well. So what kinds of things can you do in the morning? Again, can you, while you're having breakfast with your family, say one thing that you're grateful for, or two things that you're grateful for. What are you excited about, coming up today? And if there is time to really maybe have, turn on a video, do something like 5 or 10 minutes of movement in the morning and get your child moving, get yourself moving. I don't know about you, but it's really as good for the mental state as it is for the physical state. So those are some things. Anybody want to comment on any of that? Anybody have a morning routine or evening routine that they're following?
I am trying to read a book before I go to bed instead of, Pokemon or something before going to bed. Because when you're on a social media, there's just so many different directions and you're not really focusing on your task at hand, which is to slow your roll.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Donna?
At nighttime, we, do our routine, brushing your teeth, getting pajamas and everything. And we have sometimes we'll read a book, but I like to listen to thunderstorms for me to go to sleep. And he likes to listen to nature sounds. So we have my house filled with the sounds of thunderstorms and nature sounds every night now, because they kind of clash between the two rooms. So, and then in the mornings, we do I call it the shake it out. It's like, all right, we stand up, and once I finally can get him out of bed, he sleeps in a cocoon. So getting him out of the cocoon is a little tough sometimes, but we do shake it out. Like we do 5 times on each arm and each leg, and we count down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, all the way down. And then he's either that or I'll put on a good morning song and we sing and we'll sing all the way to the bus stop as we'll walk to the bus stop now.
Oh, how I love that.
Yeah,
So
that sounds great.
I love that. Marianne, you have anything to add there, darling? You're off mute. I hope you're here. Oh, cool. That's a really good idea. So I just challenge you to add one thing to your morning routine or your evening routine that will make sleep conducive to sleep, a good night's sleep, and waking up that's conducive to a good day moving forward. Just really, those are the 2 times a day that we really can control. The rest of our day, school, work, life is just happening. And if you could just build in a few minutes on each side and then slowly build from there, would be my encouragement moving forward. So another thing that I think, and then we'll see if we have, any more time or things you'd like to talk about or questions that you have. The last thing I really want to talk about is keeping a schedule. So we're coming into the season where we're going to overbook ourselves. We got Halloween, we got Thanksgiving, we got all those things associated with all the holidays. But to really maintain your mental and physical energy, keeping a schedule and keeping me time, preserving you through the season, build time in for what are your top priorities for yourself, for your family, and put those as rocks in your calendar, things that are not going to be moved because they're very important to you. When we schedule appointments with other people, we don't cancel. So schedule your appointment for me time, which could be reading, it could be exercising, it could be just relaxing. For ladies, doing your nails. For the men, I don't know, but do something. And really schedule that time. Also schedule blank times in your calendar. Okay, because how days go. We tend to get overbooked without even realizing it. So put some blank spots in your calendar that, won't be disturbed. And then learn how to say no. Okay. Sometimes, someone invites us here, or we do something over here or here, there. And once again, we're overbooked. So really kind of set your priorities. Hey there, Miss Jean, I missed you. Set your priorities and learn how to say no. Just do what matters most. So we got the movement. We've got eating healthy. I think we talked about keep it in front of you. One of the things about eating, if you don't mind me just chatting for a minute about it, is there's lots of in-season foods like beets and broccoli and cabbage and eggplant and kale and squash. So if you could, go to those farm stands and pick up fresh, vegetables that are in season, those are great things to do. And then it's football season. So, we sit and we watch TV, and we have probably not so good choices sitting around us if we're, watching that game with other folks. So there are many healthy recipes. You could do raw veggies and dip. You could have fresh fruit out. You could have deviled eggs, hummus, and, veggies, as well as homemade trail mix. So I do have a list of game day recipes. So if anybody's interested in getting some recipes, just say recipe, please, in the chat. And I'll be happy, make sure I have your email address as well. And I'll be happy to send that to you. And then just a little thought, and we could cover this next time, is Halloween candy. Rethink your treat. And there's some things you could get at the dollar store that are fun for children that are not sweet. So just, a little challenge around that as well. So any words before we say goodbye? And we're going to come back again on October 28th. And we don't know what the topic is yet, but I'm going to venture to say it's going to be something around holiday preparation and setting ourselves up for success, joy, and happiness. So, all right. I will send recipes for sure. Dr. Sanders, is there anything you want to share before we close this out?
No, I appreciate everyone's participation, and we hope to see you next month.
All right. Thanks so much. Glad to see your face, Miss Jean. We'll have to catch you on the replay. Okay. Take care, everybody. Have a good rest of your day. Bye-bye.
Bye.